Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Football Friday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily as we get ready for the high school football playoffs to kick off later this evening. I'm Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, joined by Rick Henry in Columbia, Tegan Brown in Myrtle Beach, and Carmine Jamay up in Greenville. So, guys, we're going to start with our game of the week here in the Low Country this week, and then there's a first-round playoff matchup in 5A Division I between Wando and James Island. Now, these are two teams that actually met in the first round of the playoffs last season. James Island came away with a 24-2 victory over the Warriors to move on to the second round. Pretty much expecting the same kind of result this year as James Island comes into this one at 9-1 on the season. Wando have struggled a little bit. They're at 4-6 on the year as they come into this matchup. James Island, their only loss of the season came in a close defeat at Somerville a few weeks back. So other than that game, they have really just been rolling through most of their schedule so far this season, expecting pretty much the same when they go up against Wando tonight. The Warriors, though, they're going to give it their full effort. They totally think they have a chance to go in and pull off this upset later tonight.
This year has really stepped up, starting about 10 sophomores on offense and defense. We're a brotherly group. I think, it's a brotherhood. We try to keep a tight circle. We know that we might not be the most talented athletic-wise, but we're going to team that's going to play with discipline. We're going to play with heart. We're going to play with effort. And you can't ask for anything else from a football team.
We have a couple more leaders in that locker room that's making sure the kids and their brothers and teammates are focused, ready. Than at this point last year. Still both teams are good, no comparing, but we got a couple more leaders in that locker room to make sure the kids are focused, locked in, and ready to play ball.
And we mentioned that Somerville team that James Island lost to a couple of weeks ago. They're in first-round action tonight as well. They're at home against another low-country team in West Ashley. Rick, what's going on in Columbia?
Well, a lot of our powerhouse teams, they have the first-round byes, Dutch Fork, Irmo, Ridgeview, Sumter. So we're putting the spotlight on some teams that we weren't able to cover a lot this year. We've got the Orangeburg-Wilkinson Bruins in 3A. They're number 7 in our Midlands top 10, and they are going against Keenan. Now, Keenan is only 3-7 on paper. It looks like a mismatch, but that may not be the case. Now, Orangeburg-Wilkinson is 9-1. They suffered their first loss last week to Oceanside Collegiate, and OW finished second in Region 6 3A behind Oceanside. And Keenan, they're 3-7. They made the playoffs by finishing 4th in Region 4. The Bruins and Raiders had a closer than expected game at Keenan in September. The Raiders trailed 21-14 in the fourth quarter, but Christopher Glover runs for 2 touchdowns in the final period to ice the game. OW wins it 35-14. Keenan head coach Jarrett Neely says that loss provided some teachable moments for his guys.
It was a 21-14 ball game with 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, and we ended up running into the punter, and they got a little bit of momentum going. But I think our guys, just understand that, hey, we can't make those mistakes in the game. We was right there at a critical point. OW, you got to give them credit, man. Those guys been playing good all year long. Just lost their first game last week to a great Oceanside team, but I think our guys learned that, we can't make, simple mistakes like that in the game because it will come back in the end and haunt you.
And the roles have certainly reversed this year. Last season, Keenan swept OW, beat them in the regular season, then knocked them out in the second round of the playoffs. Carmine, what you got in the upstate?
Yeah, Rick. Well, we got another season rematch. Great segue right into what we have going on here in the upstate because we have a rematch between Malden and Boiling Springs, also at Malden, just like the first game. And this first matchup ended up being 21-14 Malden. So we hopefully are in for another close game here. And Kevin's voice was in my head when I was thinking of what's our game of the week and talking about all the blowouts in the other sports with the 1 seed against the 16 seed. And I know it's not as lopsided in football, so I picked an 8 against the 9 seed with a close rematch. And so we'll see what happens here in the upstate. But very exciting for this high school football. And Tegan, actual close matchups, a lot more across the board than you might see in the other sports that we've talked about here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember Kevin's whole rant about volleyball and how, selling those tickets just to let parents go and see their teams get absolutely crushed when they're a 12 seed by a 1 seed. It's a valid point. So, here in the Grand Strand and PD, we chose a game between 2 of those teams. We've got West Florence taking on Conway. Now, these teams have not played each other since 2020 when they played in the first half of the regular season. The Knights came away with the win in that one by a couple of touchdowns, and now here they are in the playoffs. But of course, we've also talked a little bit about with football playoffs how you can have one region win and somehow go to the playoffs. And that has happened with Conway. They won one of those matchups, whereas West Florence, they are 4-2 in region play. And the Knights had basically an entirely new O-line this year. That's their brand new head coach this year, Chad Wilkes. He was at Lamar before this, and he's really turned around this team in a good way. Not that they struggled last year too much, but they've definitely gotten a lot stronger this year. The defense specifically is something that he's really focused on. It's had to save them a couple of times in different games, and Coach Wilkes does not want his guys to look at this next game like it's any other matchup. He wants them to have a different mindset.
Oh, I want there to be another mindset for sure. Now, whether the kids actually have one or not, that's kind of up to them. I think I want there to be another mindset. It is a different time of year. It is a different season. Everything that's happened up until this point, everybody's back to 0-0, right? You could be the 12th seed, and if you go win all your games, you'll end up being the state champion. It's the playoffs, right? So we could also, if we play like we've played at times this year, we'll lose in round one. It's really up to our kids to take that playoff mindset and the November mindset and to lay it all out there on the line. And I think if we do that, we'll have a chance to be pretty successful.
Yeah, and West Florence should be pretty successful in this one. If Conway were to come away with the win in this one, it would be probably the biggest upset I have seen down here since I started covering high school football, Kevin.
Yeah, and if you guys want me to go on that rant one more time, we do have in 1A, 1-9 St. John's going on the road to take on 10-0 Bamberg Earhart. So I've got like 6 minutes of material ready to go on that. Do you guys just give me the word? Nope, I'm getting told go to break. All right, we've got more coming up here on Palmetto Sports Daily. I'll do it after the break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Putting a pause on Kevin's rant with a lot of great points to talk about a team that really needs a win in Clemson football hosting Florida State. Clemson still needing to win 3 out of their last 4 games to keep that 2-decade bowl streak alive, something that Dabo Swinney's never missed that milestone. And this Florida State team's been up, they've been down. They're a team that started off with a top 10 win over Alabama, looked like they could be in the national conversation, and then at one point lost 4 straight games, 3 of them to good ACC teams, Pitt, Miami, and also losing to Virginia on the road, but then losing to Stanford at Stanford, maybe one of the worst, if not the worst, ACC teams in the entire country. But this Clemson and Florida State matchup, not just important for bowl game standing, Florida State 4-4, Clemson 3-5, but also because it's kind of fostered a friendship between Deion Sanders, the Florida State legend, as a player, returning that punt epically in the late 80s against Clemson in Memorial Stadium, and now, of course, coaching at Colorado, and Dabo Swinney. So you got this Clemson and Florida State matchup, and Coach Swinney spoke about speaking with another coach, former Seminole legend, Deion Sanders, this week.
Misery loves company. We just cried on each other's shoulder. Yeah, he's kind of become a friend. He's always been a hero of mine, but I've always liked him. I really have. Always have liked him. I've only met him one time in person when he was working with ESPN. But we just kind of connected this summer. Had a lot to talk about. Had a great conversation, and then he just reached out yesterday just to kind of chit chat, And I mean, again, you don't have a lot of peers in this business, but we're both kind of going through a challenging season. Ironically, we're playing Florida State. He did not wish me well. But anyway, just talked about hopefully nobody calls their shot like he did. But yeah, just professional conversation.
Professional conversation, just like we all have right here on Palmetto Sports Daily. And speaking about misery-loving company, Clemson with a 3-5 record, and Deion Sanders, head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, 3-6. So pretty somewhat similar seasons there for both, although, of course, the Tigers much more disappointing with the top 5 expectations coming into this season. But, Rick, Dabo mentioned there Deion calling his shot on the 76-yard punt return in the late 80s. What do you think about when you think about that legendary game at Memorial Stadium?
That he actually told the fans he was going to take it all the way back, and he did. But, man, the things he did at Florida State. When he was at Florida State, they were in the Metro Conference with South Carolina. Deion played baseball. Florida State is playing the Gamecocks in a doubleheader here in Columbia. In between games of the doubleheader, he goes over to the track where Florida State is there for a track meet, and he runs the leg of their 4x100 meter team. So played a baseball doubleheader and also participated in track same day. Deion Sanders, definitely legendary way before he hit the NFL and the major leagues.
Yeah, I have a hard time kind of picturing Dabo being a fan of Deion Sanders when he was playing. I don't know that that's really the kind of player that Dabo would thrive coaching at any point in his tenure, but it is fun to think about. Moving on to the NFL, we've got the Panthers, who somehow are one of the best teams, or the hottest teams at least in the NFL over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks. They've got a game coming up now that they should win as they take on the Saints this coming weekend. Carolina coming off that huge win this past weekend over Green Bay. It seems like ever since Bryce Young has returned to the lineup. We missed a game a couple of weeks ago. Andy Dalton got the start. They lost that game. But other than that, over the course of the last month, when Bryce Young has started a game, the Panthers have won, dating back to that loss they had to the Patriots about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So as they get ready for the Saints game, now it's a little bit different, guys, as the Panthers are expected to win this game, something that feels like it hasn't happened in a long, long time. So what do we expect to see out of Carolina this weekend? Tegan, I'll start with you, as they're expected to take this game this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations for the Panthers throughout the entire season had never been too high, and as they've been winning these past few weeks, it changed my perspective a bit, I suppose, but they just seem a little unpredictable right now. They should win this game, theoretically, based off of what we've seen the last few weeks, and if they don't, I think that's definitely a big blow for them. So they should win this game, even if it's not with a very high-performing offense, Carmine.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because they go from the biggest underdog win in the NFL in 2 seasons, coming in as 2 touchdown underdogs at Lambeau Field. Now they're almost a touchdown favorite back at home against the Saints. Of course, the opponent having a lot to do with that. But as far as the offense, Kevin, to your question, just keep handing the ball off to Rico. I mean, you look at, he's 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards per game at 82 rushing yards per game, and 1st in the NFC. But then if you look at the games where he's really been the lead back over Chuba Hubbard, getting 15 carries or more in 4 of those games, all Panthers wins. And in those 4 games that he's gotten 15 carries or more, he's averaging 150 rushing yards per game. And he did, I believe, 135 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns against the Packers when he wasn't even 100% there in the second half. His quad injury not resulting from that touchdown celebration that we all saw. But Rick, I think go to the former Gamecock and just let him run the rock and as Dave Canales likes to say, keep pounding.
Yeah, it's working, but all these carries, you mentioned the quadriceps injury. Is his body going to start breaking down because of all of this extra workload? And the Panthers, they really confused me because since they beat my Cowboys, they've only scored 3 touchdowns in 3 games, 2 last week by Rico, and they won 2 of those games. Sooner or later, it's got to catch up with them.
One other thing to note from today, Rick, is that Ted McMillan, the wide receiver, the first-round pick from last year, he's now listed as questionable for this game against the Saints on Sunday. He suffered a hamstring injury yesterday in practice, so they don't know if he's going to be able to play. And that's something, even though he hasn't been putting up huge numbers, they need receivers. As great as the running game has been doing, at some point, if Bryce Young doesn't even things out a little bit and start getting some passing yards, they're just going to start putting 10 guys in the box on defense and daring them to throw the ball because they're not going to let Rico beat him at some point. So Carolina needs to even things out a little bit, as great as Rico in the running game has been doing over the course of these last couple of weeks. We got more to talk about here on Palmetto Sports Daily coming up right after this.
And welcome back to this Football Friday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Right now, we're going to talk some college basketball. For the second straight game, the South Carolina women will welcome back one of their former assistant coaches. Now, on Monday in the season opener, it was Winston Gandy, who's now the head coach of Grand Canyon. He brought his team to Columbia, and Don Staley said, "Hey, welcome home and take this 40-point loss back to Arizona with you." And so tonight it's Bowling Green, and they're coached by Fred Shamil. He is in his third year coaching the Falcons. And so he spent 8 years at Carolina as one of Don Staley's right-hand assistant coaches. He helped them win 2 national championships. Now, Shamil faced the Gamecocks in his first season as the Falcons head man. USC defeated the Falcons pretty handedly in that one, 93-62. That was back in December of 2023. Shamil posted winning seasons his first 2 years. Bowling Green is 1-0 this season. And Coach Staley knows that Fred will receive a nice, warm welcome by the fams.
I mean, it's always great. I mean, I know the fams are gonna love up on Fred. Fred's gave us some great years and some championships, and you know, I always credit the people who get the opportunity to move over 12 inches and to run their own program. He's been wanting to do that for a long time. I'm glad. Bowling Green State University did the right thing. They got the right guy for the job, and I'm sure they are super happy with him and their progress.
Yeah, Coach Staley building quite a coaching tree there, and I don't think that Fred Shamil is going to taste victory tonight. Carmine?
No, I love the way you put it about Winston. Welcome back and take this 40-point loss back with you. But, I mean, of course, totally overmatched. But just great to see Coach Staley welcoming back the former assistants, getting exposure for their programs. And when it's all said and done and 50 years later you're on the rocking chair on the porch, you're probably going to talk about with your former teammates, hey, remember when we played at Colonial Life Arena against potentially the national champs this year? So pretty cool there, Rick. And then just across the street, you guys had a little baseball going on too.
Well, actually, Carmine, that was here in Charleston last night over at Riley Park in the Low Country as South Carolina made the trip down to Charleston to take on the College of Charleston in a fall ball exhibition matchup. We got a chance to talk to Paul Maneri and Chad Holbrook before the game. The thing that Maneri said that really piqued my interest was that he talked about the guys they wanted to bring in from the transfer portal this offseason. And he said last year the lineup just didn't have enough pop in it. And he said that was the big thing they were focused on. They wanted to get home run hitters. They wanted to get guys who were going to knock in runs and really drive the ball out this coming season. And we got our first look at it last night. And right away, you know, this is a guy that's coming back, but KJ Scobie here in the top of the first inning, putting one off the wall in center field. That drove in a run that put the Gamecocks on top 1-0 early. They would just keep adding runs throughout this game, and South Carolina would go on for an 8-1 victory over the College of Charleston. USC with those 7 pitchers on the night, they'd strike out 9 Cougars throughout the course of the game. So really impressive showing from the Gamecocks in this fall exhibition. Here's what the coaches had to say before the game about what they were looking to get out of this.
We're coming down here because we love to come to Charleston, number one, and play a good team, number two. And, College of Charleston comes to play us in the spring over in Columbia. So I just thought it was very appropriate to come over here, and we play in a beautiful ballpark here.
We got a lot of young players we'll put out there today and give them their first taste of it. I'm going to play 2 different teams essentially tonight, because I think everybody needs to feel what it's like to play an opponent like this in an environment like this. So a lot will be learned tonight, but again, what happens tonight on the field doesn't have much influence on what will happen in the spring.
Also, shout out to Chad Holbrook right there, who you just saw. Told me he lost 40 pounds over the course of the offseason. He is looking great, Rick.
Ask you, what kind of training regimen does Chad have going on there? Yeah, he's looking thin and fit. Good kudos to him. And I know Gamecock fans are happy to see that offensive production from Carolina. Of course, We got to see it during the regular season. All right, that's going to wrap up this segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. Take a quick time out, and we'll be back to wrap up the show.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Of course, it's Friday, so we are going to make our lock of the week choices. I'm going to take Notre Dame over Navy, the 26.5-point favorite, but I'm taking them anyway. Both of these teams, their offenses, definitely their strength. Both the defenses have struggled a little bit. Rick, who are you
Rick's
taking?
not in favor.
One as difficult as I did, right? Yeah.
Oh, that was a stinky pick that you made, Tegan. 26 points. Oh my goodness!
The point,
and we
if I
thought
listen to
Kevin has
Kevin's
been
logic,
bad.
The point is to correct.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
Wait,
Let me throw some
It might
hot
be
sauce
worse.
on this segment. Okay, Florida State and Clemson. Two bad teams. I'm gonna go with Florida State. They 510 yards total offense, 241 yards rushing, and we've seen that Clemson defense get ripped at home. Florida State. Carmine, what you got?
Rick, great points, and I think I'm going with my heart over my head here by picking the same game but going with Clemson because, we're here on the bottom. We got the aloof characters on top picking the guaranteed winners, whatever, but we're grinders down here in the bottom two box. And I'm going with Clemson, 1.5-point favorites to snap this 4-game losing streak at Death Valley, which hasn't happened in 25 years. So, Kevin, what's the 30-point favorite you're going to pick here?
Well, it's up to you, Carmine. You want to give me some Rico Dowdle pumps?
No, I'm not pumped up. Please.
Where's this going?
All right, then I'm taking Ole Miss over the Citadel. It's Carmine's fault, guys. I tried.
Oh my gosh.
We'll see you next week.
Oh man.